Mayor Mike, welcome back to Mayor's Monday. I talk about it every time we've come down here the last couple of months, but I finally got to take the roundabout coming
Right?
into town here, and I'll tell you what, it's got that new roundabout smell to it.
It does have the new roundabout smell to it. Yeah, you successfully navigated it. There weren't any major complications,
No,
right?
no,
Everybody
no major
survived.
complications. There was no rear ending. It was smooth sailing all the way
Good,
through.
good. I actually heard, it's been open for a little over a week now, and I've heard good things from couple of the people who work and live in that area. That it seems to be working very well. No backups in traffic like there typically had been when school was in session. At Spash with the high school there, coming when school gets in and gets out, there tended to be a backup of traffic there because of the stops at the signal intersection. There's no backups now, so at least that part was successful so far.
Yeah, and in that area too. I mean, you got the Century World building right there, and I'll tell you what, I haven't seen it in 2 or 3 months. That thing is going to be gorgeous.
It is the new Century building, right at kitty corner from the world headquarters. If you haven't driven by, take a look. Don't do too much gawking because keep your eyes on the road.
Right.
But yeah, it's coming along real nice. It's going to be a beautiful addition to the northern entrance of Stevens Point.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we've talked about with that area is the northern entrance. That's a good first impression of Stevens Point when you've got a few nice buildings right there, and it just kind of gives off the right vibe for the city.
Yeah, and we're also looking at commissioning some artwork by a local artist to put in the right of way of the road, not in the center of the roundabout, but the left and right sides of the road on the north-south venue to try and enhance the area. Again, do a nice welcome to Stevens Point kind of entrance.
And of course, the other thing you mentioned, the high school is right there. School's back in session. Your population has increased considerably.
It has.
Especially in the 18 to 22 demographic with UWSP back in session now. So that means, with the campus being as it is, commuted by bicyclists, skateboardists, walkers, especially in the area of the campus, we want to make sure people are keeping their head on a swivel when they're driving in that area.
Well, not just when you're driving. The bicyclists need to be aware. The pedestrians need to be aware. When you add that many people into a new city, even move-in weekend, we're driving around just taking a look at how things were going, and it's new people. They don't know the city. They don't have the navigation skills that all the residents have. So they're driving around kind of getting their feel for it. Be patient. Know that sometimes the drivers miss their turn or they're going slow to read street signs to find out where they're going. But it's also important that those drivers are watching out for pedestrians, not just the grade school K-12 kids who are commuting back and forth to school or playgrounds or after-school activities, but the UWSP students that are here too. We'll have a variety of modes of transportation, bicyclists, maybe rollerblading. I don't know if that's still a thing, but I think it is. Bicycling, skateboarding, just walking. Everybody needs to be aware of everybody else and follow the rules of the road. Drivers need to stop. Drivers need to stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk. If a bicycle is in the roadway, it needs to follow the rules of the road. That means signaling, stopping at stop signs, going the right way down a one-way street. If you're on the sidewalk as a bicyclist, you need to follow the rules as if you were a pedestrian. So walk your bike across the crosswalks and things like that. Skateboards are the same way. They shouldn't be in the road, but you need to just be courteous and be aware of what's going on because we don't want any accidents to happen.
Yeah, and again, you mentioned getting a feel for a new city like this. I mean, and that can also mean people are maybe looking at their GPS, not paying attention. You need to do that stuff safely as well when you're navigating.
Yes, you do. And I understand you've got thousands of people who may have never been to Stevens Point before. It takes them a while to get acclimated. We've got a lot of cool things to see and do here, and they're out doing and seeing those things. So be patient and be cautious for the next. Well, always, but especially cautious the next couple of weeks till we get acclimated to all those school kids running around again.
Now, speaking of move-in day at UWSP, did you happen to go out there and help move any futons or
I didn't.
pieces of furniture?
I hadn't thought about it, but no, I didn't. We did drive around to make sure everything was okay because, as you know, Isidore Street, which is a road adjacent to some of the dormitories, is under construction right now. But we worked well with the university and the university police and city police and the contractor to make sure that road was at least drivable so all those parents and students could get up to their dorms, move their stuff in, and then we resumed construction, Tuesday after Labor Day.
And that project, is that on track, on timeline right now?
It is on track, even with all the rain we've had. We're still set for an October completion, so I think we're doing very well there, as long as Mother Nature doesn't throw us any more curveballs. And we were also fortunate, with all the heavy rains that have been going on all over the state. We've been pretty much unscathed. I didn't hear any reports of any damage or flooded basements or anything within the city, so I think we're in good shape. I just contacted last week. I contacted Congressman Kine's office contacted us to see how things were going, because obviously through that district there's been some damage. We've been very fortunate to not have any damage that I'm aware of in the city.
Yeah, so good to hear that the infrastructure is holding up, and especially with the Isidore Street project being such an important one, not only for the road surface but the infrastructure underneath it, that's
right.
been keeping up here lately.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good to hear that, at least as far as we know, everything seems to be as normal or status quo
right.
here in Stevens Point. Now you've got coming up later tonight, you've got a few important meetings. Of course, the way that you do it down here, you kind of run all those meetings back to back.
Right.
Sometimes for us in the media, if you're a little ahead of schedule, we'd prefer you to be a little behind schedule when we're driving down here. But those problems aside, you've got a few important meetings that you'll be discussing tonight.
Yeah, so it's that time of the year again where we're waist deep in our budget process and staffing and looking forward to what we're going to be doing in 2019. So tonight at Personnel, we are talking about our current and future staffing needs. The city departments have been working together to talk about their needs as far as staffing, and we're going to present some of that to the Personnel Committee tonight. And then subsequently the council next Monday. We also have a preliminary capital budget that we're going to be presenting at the Finance Committee, talking about all of our capital projects that we're hoping to get done in 2019. Now we have a lot more projects than we have money, so it's always a difficult process trying to whittle away what we can afford while still prioritizing the things that are very important, like road maintenance. That's a priority. This year was a terrible year for potholes. We want to make sure that we have enough money in our road budget to reconstruct the ones that need reconstruction, resurface, chip seal, and maintain the ones that we have. So that's critical. And fleet vehicles, of course, is always a big deal. Squads and plow trucks and things like that need to be replaced every so often, as well as regular building maintenance, tuck pointing and roof repairs and things like that. So it's always a challenge, and we're going to be presenting the initial capital budget at Finance Committee tonight.
Yep, it's one of those deals where I think when you get into city government, you don't realize how much you'll have to dive into things like that and how quickly. But something that I'm sure it's a skill that you acquire. You have to kind of maintain that and prioritize where's going to be the most important, where are we best to spend our money, and try to keep everybody happy in the process, which is going to be impossible.
Well, it's very difficult to do, but it's not a skill that you necessarily acquire. I think we all have the skill. It's just a matter of honing it, because we all have personal budgets. We all have to prioritize our spending at home. There are things that we want. There are things that we need. Family members all have different priorities. That's really what it is here in Stevens Point, on a much larger scale, of course, than your home budget or my home budget. But the prioritization process is still the same. I need a new roof on my house, or I want to buy a new fancy computer. Okay, well, it's pretty easy to figure something like that out. But when everyone in your family, let's say everyone in your family needs a new computer, and you can only afford one or two, what do? You try and work together and maybe you share resources. And that's what we've been doing, not just within the city, but with other municipalities. If there are ways that we can improve efficiencies by sharing our resources and working together as a community, I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of those aspects of the budget, and we don't want to talk about it, but it's going to be coming up sooner rather than later. Winter's road maintenance. I know last year, of course, we kind of had the monkey wrench thrown in the month of April.
That's a heck of a monkey wrench, yeah. 2.5 feet of monkey wrench.
It absolutely was, not only here, but everywhere across the region. So that's something else that I'm sure you're going to be working out here pretty soon as well.
Yeah, and I actually talked just last week with the street superintendent. They've modified plow routes once again. They're always looking at ways to increase efficiency and minimize the travel time. Double duty, that sort of thing, but yet make the roads that need to be plowed safe. So they're working out those kinks right now. We did, on a similar note, kick off our Paint the Plow project again. We take our plow blades and we distribute them to schools in the area. The students then, the students create the design, vote on designs, and paint the plow. So they have a little buy-in with that project. So each school has their own plow blade, and then the plow blades are attached to the vehicles, and they will be on those schools' plow routes during the winter. They'll also have them in the holiday parade, which is really cool. Our assistant street superintendent, Luke, came up with the idea last year and ran with it, and it was very successful. Frank's Hardware, one of the local hardware stores, donates the money for the supplies so the kids can paint it, and they paint the plow. We put a clear coat over it so it lasts through the winter, and it's really involved. It's cool to see the kids get really excited about a snowplow.
Yeah, and it makes something for the community to be excited about too. I mean, you,
Right.
you get to see a little artwork moving down your street. Instead
Yeah,
of
it's
just,
you know,
a plain old plow.
nobody wants to see the plow truck come by in winter because they're going to plow your driveway in or throw snow on your sidewalk or whatever it happens to be. It's usually pretty gloomy, but you know, when you can say, "Hey, my daughter or son had a part in painting that blade," all right, maybe it's not so bad now.
Maybe it's not so bad. But yeah, we'll wait a couple of months yet before we think
Yeah,
about that
let's wait.
seriously. Anything else that you'd like to add before we let you go today, Mr. Mayor?
You know, I think we're winding down the season. There's still a few things going on out at the parks. Our Cultural Commons is coming along very nicely. That's a project involving Rotary Club and our sister cities and partner cities. That is going to be a real showcase in our Piffner Pioneer Park. We had the Gus Macker tournament last weekend. The Pacelli Panacea was last weekend. So we're kind of winding down into that fall season. It's time for the changing leaves and sitting outside around a campfire maybe, or pumpkin spiced anything. I guess that's where we're going. But thanks for coming by.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the time. We'll do it again next month.
All right.